In this video, I want to discuss a really important point when it comes to losing weight and really taking on a new healthy lifestyle. This was a really important point for me, part of the process that I learned that really allowed me to go from where I was to where I am today. And I want to share it with you in this video. If you like this video, please like it and please subscribe to the channel so that you can get notifications on all future upcoming videos. When it comes to living a healthy lifestyle, I have a whole system called the Mind Diet on this channel that you can check out, that we have to shift and change our whole association to food and what it means and why we eat and why we should want to go on a healthy lifestyle. I don't like the word diet because it means to some extent a sacrifice, and no sacrifice can work long term because that means to a certain extent that we're in pain and we're not gonna do something that represents pain for us. We can only do it for so long. And you can check out my videos on that to really change our association to food so that eating healthy is something that's pleasurable and not a battle every single day. And for me, that was a massive changing point because I remember that I used to kind of sacrifice and hold myself back from eating the pastries and eating the chocolate and eating all the stuff that I shouldn't really eat on a healthy lifestyle. And for me, at the beginning, it was more of a diet. So it was kind of like a yo-yo up and down, which is really frustrating for a lot of people when they're trying to lose weight. But once we change the association, once it no longer becomes a battle where we have everything that we want to give to being healthy, it's the whole change. It's a game changer because everything is working for us in the direction that we want to go. But as I said, you can check that up on my Mind Diet videos. What I want to discuss in this video is a really important point because it comes up the whole time, and I see and I hear this from people who are trying to lose weight and be more healthy, and that is when things go wrong. when we have a bad moment, or we have a bad day, or we have a bad week when it comes to eating, of course. You know, I hear this the whole time, oh, see, you know, Joe, I wasn't able to hold myself back. It's just not going to work. Or how am I ever going to get to the point that I want to get to when I couldn't hold myself back in this one party? So, you know, something goes wrong and they start building up this feeling of disappointment and they lose hope and they lose that ability to see how they're going to get to the place that they want to get to with their body. And as I've said, you know, our physical body is an important factor in life, not just when it comes to our emotional well-being, but we carry our bodies around with us wherever we go. We can't hide it, right? And for a lot of people, that's a difficult thing to stomach because they're not necessarily proud of the way that they look. So we really have to make sure that we're comfortable, not just physically, but also in our mindset, which is a separate concept. But it's a big part of our lives, our physical body, on so many different levels. And this is the reality, and we have to own this point that things are going to go wrong. Life does not go in a straight line. No healthy lifestyle or dieting, let's just use that word even though I don't like it, it's never going to go in a straight line. There's always going to be a moment where we go off track. In every area of life, this is true. Relationships, business, trying to build up our well-being, parenting. There's always going to be moments where we get it wrong. It's not about getting it right the whole time. That's just not possible. That is just a delusional way of seeing it. It's just gonna create so much disappointment and so much disillusionment. We're gonna get so disillusioned by it because it's gonna happen. We're gonna get it wrong. We're gonna have a bad day. We're gonna have a bad moment, or even possibly a couple of bad days in our healthy lifestyle. We're gonna get it wrong. And the question is, how do we deal with those disappointments? It's not a question of whether or not we're gonna have a bad moment. It's not a question of whether or not we're going to eat the chocolate bar that we shouldn't eat or the pastry or the donut that we shouldn't eat. That isn't a question because it's probably going to happen, right? I'm in a really good place physically, better than I've ever been over the last 8 years. And I've kept it and it's building up stronger and stronger. But I still sometimes go for a donut. Sometimes I choose to do it because I just want to have it. And sometimes I just get caught up in the moment and I can't hold myself back. It's still going to happen. There's never going to be, you're always going to have something that doesn't go according to plan, exactly the way that we envision it to be. It's just impossible. So the question isn't whether or not we're going to keep to this healthy lifestyle the whole time, right? That's not a question because you're not. It's just a reality. Life doesn't go in a straight line. There's always going to be things that get in the way. There's always going to be moments that we're not prepared for. And there's always going to be situations that we're not used to. And we just, out of that sense of not being used to it, we might make decisions that don't really work for us. We might make decisions that really are not aligned with what we want. And that's normal and that's okay. The real question is, what are we going to do when we hit those moments? What are we going to do when we hit those roadblocks? What are we going to do when we get a little bit diverted off the path that we want to go to? Are we going to beat ourselves up, or are we going to just take it on the chin and find a way to move forward? For me, this was a really key part of the process of learning to deal with this healthy lifestyle when it went off track. So if I would have a bad moment and I would find myself in the chocolate cupboard, instead of saying, oh, that's it, it's over, see, it's never going to work, I would take in the whole picture and I would think about the past, present, and future. I would think, well, how long have I been healthy for? Well, I've been healthy for the last 3 weeks. Well, that's stronger than one moment, right? This one moment does not erase the past 3 weeks. And then I'd go to the present. Okay, what can I do to counteract this? Can I drink lots of water? Can I make sure that I'm really healthy in my next meal? Can I maybe cut some calories out in a healthy way, of course, not in an unhealthy way? Can I reduce some calories in my lunch or dinner later on, or maybe over the next day or two, to really make sure that I'm really, really healthy? But then I'd think about the future as well. What made me eat that chocolate? What made me eat that pastry? And I'd understand the trigger. What was the trigger? Was I stressed? Was I tired? Okay, so next time I'm feeling tired, I'm going to ask myself a question before I eat that chocolate or that pastry. Do I really want this? Am I tired? What would be a better way of dealing with this feeling of being tired? So that is a healthy way of dealing with it. And once I was able to build in that kind of mindset, that narrative that this is okay. This is okay. This means nothing more than the moment that it is. This does not mean that I get to wipe off the last 3 months, the last 6 months, the last year of eating really healthy. It doesn't mean that. It's just a moment. It's just a moment, a trigger, a circumstance, a situation that I was not prepared for, that maybe was too much for me in the moment. And I ate something that I thought was enjoyable at the time. That is okay. But if we beat ourselves up, and we start then experiencing feelings of disappointment, I think there's even a higher chance that we're going to go and eat more stuff that we don't really want to eat, because we're going to try and squash those emotions. And the reason why a lot of people overeat to start with is for emotional reasons. They don't want to feel those feelings they want to feel. So an easy and quick way and certain way to change our emotions is through food. Food builds excitement, food builds a sense of certainty within us. But also it's a sense of self-love, which was very much for me. I wanted to give myself some kind of reward. I wanted to make myself feel good. So I'd eat lots of food to kind of cover up and mask up the outside circumstances that I had that were creating, or I was creating about the outside circumstances within myself. So the more we beat ourselves up, we're going to get more of what we don't want, because chances are we're going to go and eat even more unhealthy food. And then we're never going to get what we want. And it's not because something went wrong. And this is a key point. It's not because something went wrong that we're not going to get what we want. It's the narrative around when something goes wrong that's not going to allow us, or is going to allow us, to continue. And if we have that narrative of, doomsday, that, see, that means it's never going to work, or see, I'm not strong enough, well, we're never going to move forward. We're going to move forward, but in the wrong direction. And it's just not true. See, I've got no self-control, this isn't going to work. What about the last week? What about the last 2 weeks? What about the last 6 months where it did work? What about the hundreds of situations where you did want to eat the chocolate, the pastry, or whatever it was, and you didn't eat it? We can't allow this one moment to become more than one moment, or this one day or this week to become more than it actually is. We can't allow it to be more than it is. We have to respect and have compassion on ourselves for what it is, but take in, as I said before, the past. How many weeks have gone by where I have been able to be healthy compared to a week? Well, if this was a financial situation and you make money over 3 weeks, but then you lose money in a week, right, and it's in ratio per week, you're still in the plus. Doesn't mean the business isn't going to work. You're still earning money. So it's the same too with weight loss. If you have 3 weeks where you lose weight every week, and then 1 week you put on, right, to the same level that you lose on the previous week. So let's say you lose 2 pounds a week, and then you put on 2 pounds in 1 week. Well, you've got 6 pounds that you've lost over the last 3 weeks, and you put on 2 pounds now. You're still better off because you've lost 4 pounds. I think I've got my maths right. I was never academically motivated in school, but I know maths has become a strong point for me. So, and I think I got that one right. If I haven't, just ignore it. Don't get caught up in it. It's just a moment. So we got to look at the moment for what it is instead of blowing it out of proportion, because I can guarantee if we blow it out of proportion and we start beating ourselves up, then we'll never, ever, that I can guarantee we'll never get what we want. Because then it's going to turn into a vicious cycle of self-defeat, disappointment, we're going to feel disillusioned, and we're just saying most likely going to go eat more food. We have to own the narrative around when we break or we get diverted off this healthy new lifestyle, this path that we're on, because it's going to happen. And I think we have to realize, and I think by realizing that it's going to happen is a great preparation for when it does happen. Because I think a lot of people, they get super inspired when they first start off a new healthy lifestyle. They get inspired by how they're going to look and how they're going to feel and what everyone's going to say about them and how they're going to eat healthy food. And they've read a book about what they should eat, or they've listened to someone and they're motivated, and they get all inspired and they can just got this picture of it just going straight ahead without any challenges. And that's a dangerous way to think. Now, I want people to be inspired. I get excited by the visions that I have for myself, and I did going back 2, 3, 4 years ago as well. But I also had in the back of my mind, I had this preparation, this fact that there was going to be a bad moment. There was going to be a moment that didn't fit in with the projection that I had, or there's going to be a difficult day or even a difficult week. And I learned to be okay with that before it happened. So when it did happen, I had a narrative of this is okay, this is just a moment, this can be undone. This does not wipe out the last week, the last 2 weeks, the last 6 months, the last year. It's just a moment, and it's a moment that I'm going to have compassion on myself, see the whole picture of how far I've come, not just one moment where I have stumbled, but I'm also going to learn from it. And I learned a tremendous amount from it. I remember one time I spoke about this on the Mind Diet that I went to, I was doing really well, and I went to some kind of function. I don't remember what the function was, and I stuffed myself, like pastries, desserts, and everything. And I came back, I felt sick. That's besides the point, because I went for it. And I felt, I was like, oh my God, what have I done? Right? I've just literally put on who knows how much. And then I thought about it, and I accepted it. I had compassion. And I looked at the whole picture. Well, Joe, it's just one moment. It's one event, right? So you'll drink water, you'll eat healthy over the next couple of days. Gained, it can be lost. And if it can lost, it can be gained. It goes both ways, right? But if it can be gained, it can definitely be lost as well. And then I went to that part of me that wanted to learn from the experience. And I said, well, what was it about that event? I was doing so well. What was it about that function that made me eat all the pastries and all the stuff that I shouldn't eat? And I started to realize that I hadn't eaten before I went to the function. I hadn't eaten and I was hungry. And when I got there and I saw this delicious looking food, it was just too much. And if you've watched the Mind Diet course, then you'll know it was just too much for the elephant. Even though the elephant was on the same side as my rider, sometimes they don't engage in every single moment, and going to a function when you're already hungry and there's really good looking food there, sometimes the elephant might go off track. And I realized, well, I've got to make sure that the elephant doesn't feel that when I go to a function where there's delicious food. So what I've learned to do is if I know I'm going to a function and there's going to be pastries and stuff that I really don't want to eat, I have to make sure my elephant is okay beforehand. And if you're thinking, what in the world am I talking about in my elephant and my rider, then I suggest you watch the Mind Diet videos on this YouTube channel, because it's an absolute game changer. That is fundamentally the key to sustaining and having a new healthy lifestyle that's going to work in the long run, and that is actually enjoyable to do, and it's not a sacrifice. But I used to eat something healthy before I'd go to any event or any function, because then when I'd get there, I wasn't starving hungry. It was eatable. My elephant didn't feel the need. I didn't feel that emotional need to go and eat because I was already satisfied. And I learned from that. And because I learned from that, future functions and future events I went to, I was fine. I was fine. It wasn't the end of the road because I broke it once. It was a learning experience to become stronger in my mindset about being healthy. And that's really the critical key. How do we deal with the dips along the journey that we're on? How do we deal with the roadblocks in our healthy lifestyle? Do we beat ourselves up? Do we look at the roadblocks and that's it? I can't go any further. I've stumbled. There's no way. Or do we learn from it? Do we look at the whole picture? See how far I've come? I've got this far. I can find a way forward. What was the trigger for me? Why is this roadblock here? How can I find a new way to get around it? And what happens if I meet that roadblock again? How am I going to, what am I going to do in this moment to build up the skill set and the knowledge set and the understanding so that when it does happen again, it's not a roadblock for me? And I think this is so critical. This is so, so critical, knowing how to deal with the dips. And if we know how to deal with the dips that are going to happen, they are going to happen. That's just a fact. That preparation, that mindset is going to serve us greatly in becoming more healthy. Then when they do happen, it's going to work for us. We're going to become stronger, not weaker. And if we own those dips and we own those one-off occasions, or even those days when we go off track in our healthy lifestyle, then ultimately in the bigger picture, we will get what we want and we will get the body that we deserve.